Hi, I'm Tealish, and you're watching Coffee and Clix. Today we are going to have a special episode following the 2v2 Highlander Games 2v2 300 Modern Point Tournament event that just happened last Saturday. We are joined by Brandon Brunner, Ken Minton, Luke Scheffenacker, and Ant-Man. So, hello everybody. Thank you for joining me on the show.
Hello, thanks.
Hey, how you doing?
Thanks
Hello,
for having
everybody.
us.
Yep. Sure, thanks for having us.
So, today we're going to be talking about a lot of things. We're going to talk about the 2v2 tournament that just happened. Brandon and Ken won that event. They congratulations on winning. Luke and Ant also came in second place. So, you are looking at the final four from that event. And we're also going to talk about basically 300 point modern meta right now and what's going on in the 300 point scene of Heroclix, the Heroclix scene right now, like as far as like what figures are good and what to look out for. So we're just gonna jump right in and let's just ask a few questions. And let's just start with the event. The event was at Highlander Games in Minton, New Jersey. It was a 2v2 event, which can someone jump in and explain what the rules of that event were to anybody that was watching at home? Like, how does that event work?
Yeah, I think it's very specific rulings, right? Where you can't use anything that your partner is using, your partner can't use anything that you're using, or vice versa. And you had to be able to be creative within the meta, is what I think, right? When you're building a team, if you're looking at what's good in the meta, you had to be able to understand that certain components of whatever you see in the meta you can have, but in taking those things, your partner could be limited. So you had to kind of build teams that were conducive, that worked well together, and worked independently of, if they didn't have a certain piece that's common in the meta, say like a Beetlejuice or Black Panther in the chair. And then at that particular event, because I've done a couple of different 2v2s, at that particular event, they did it where A's could play B's or A's could play A's, which was a different dynamic that was kind of new. And I know for me, at least, I didn't know that prior to the event. They may have, stated it in the rules, but I just didn't know. So that was a curveball, but it also made it very interesting as well.
So to be clear, so it was a 2v2. So you had a partner, right? Going into this event, I want to also make sure to give props to Highlander Games in Minton, New Jersey. It's a wonderful venue, wonderful store. I go there all the time. I've been going there for years. Just to give a shout out to Highlander, give Brian Gallia thanks for judging the event, and for Highlander for running the event. It was a great event, a really fun event. There were 10 teams, no, 9 teams or 10 teams, so 18, no, 9 teams, 18 people at the event. You went in with a partner, and it was 300 modern. You could play any 300 point modern legal team. The only stipulation was that nothing on your team could be shared with your partner's team, right? So like you said,
It was
if you
also
were,
Extreme Highlander
yeah.
on the teams as well.
And you
So
also couldn't generate anything that your partner had. Like if player A had the time breaker Pog, player B could have the time breaker, like the 005, but the person with the Pog couldn't generate the 005 time breaker.
So like yeah, it was I played in the event. It was fun. It was a very fun event. What did everybody play? Like what were the teams that you guys played? We could start with so Brandon and Ken, you guys won the event. What did you guys play? What were your teams that you played?
Uh, Give me a second. Ken, do you want to go first since you were player A?
Ken had a very creative team. I would say you guys all had awesome teams, very creative teams. Some of the things that I saw, like I played all of you, and I was just wowed by like the creativity and like the gameplay as well. But like Ken, go ahead, like talk about your team. It was a really good team.
thanks. So it was Colossus with Ethereum armor on it to give him flight. Not really worried about the toughness. I had a magic carpet on order, but it literally came in on Saturday. Um, Molecule Man with the Yaka arrows, which was the I kind of when we started this process, I mean, it was actually weird. Me and Brandon, I think I picked Black Panther Prime and he picked Hadari as the people we both wanted to start our teams with, and neither one of those ended up on our teams. But the other thing I knew I wanted to play was Molecule Man with the Yaka arrows.
So how does
Uh,
the keep going, but I want to ask you about that later, how that works.
okay, uh, Butterfly, uh, Chair Panther with Bloodstone on it, and Perdegaton. And then my sideline was Ace, Caveman, Wally West, Iron Man, Mimic, Mern, and Wonder Woman, the revived Wonder Woman, Death Metal Wonder Woman.
And so what you were doing with Molecule Man, what I thought was really cool, was that he can take 2 free actions. If you play him at full points, he could take 2 free actions. And with the Yaka arrows, that means you can move the Yaka arrows twice. Right?
Right, exactly. Yep.
So that was really cool. And then also you had kind of like a turtle team. Like you were turtling in the back with you had I mean that's how you played it against me. I don't know if that was your strategy, but
No, it was that was pretty much always my strategy. I was trying to block movement with the butterflies while using my Yaka arrows to kill something small point and force you to come to me.
mhm.
And then I have, Colossus and Molecule Man. While he's doing that, he's also a great attacker. He's not quite Hadari, but he has a lot of potential for dishing out damage to multiple characters.
Very cool. Yeah, yeah. And then also Brandon and Ant, you guys both had similar, well, not similar teams, but you guys were both playing Ulysses Bloodstone, right? And I think he's just such a strong figure right now. Um, I mean, do you guys want to talk about your teams as well?
Yeah, Brandon,
Yes.
you want to go first? Go ahead.
Yeah. So with my team, I had Ulysses Bloodstone with the Stormbreaker, since Ken had the Bloodstone equipment, and you don't want the Bloodstone on Ulysses. Like he's an attacker, you want him to be able to do more damage, and the Stormbreaker is what I wanted on him. I had Diana with the Hell Cycle, of course, hypersonic, cross the map, bring someone over. I had the Pegasus Captain America with the longsword. If you single target someone, they don't get defense powers, and then with the long sword, you get CCE plus blades, and you increase the damage dealt by 1. So he could lay out a lot of damage to a single target, and they can do nothing about it. I had Kevin with Towerette on it, like the avatar of Towerette. Loki, the chase from Collector's Trove, only 30 points, 1 gem token. Timebreaker Pog, the Motorcycle Daredevil Legacy from Wheels of Vengeance at 10 points, and then Lucas PJ Scott Pog at 5 points. Then my sideline was the Rivalry one shot, the Mind Gem for free because of Loki, Ares, Beetlejuice, Reverse Flash because I didn't have a Prime any other way, so I figured why not, and of course Towerette. And this team actually went through a lot of different changes, and the reason Loki was that he was my biggest surprise of even wanting to play him because I didn't really think very much about him, but he was actually there just to soak up damage from Beetlejuice. Because my team can handle having Beetlejuice out pretty easily if it doesn't get Chair Panthered. And if he's out there and Loki's alive, he'll just take all the damage from Beetlejuice and it won't really affect me at all.
Hmm. Okay. That's really cool because I never really realized, but Loki, yeah, he can just take unavoidable damage and not care about it.
Yeah, and Anna actually pointed out something that I probably could have taken away Reverse Flash and put on like Chthon or Gaia, because it didn't matter if he took damage from a friendly effect, he'll just turn the dial and it won't matter.
Mm-hmm. All right, very cool, very cool. And then Luke, what was well? Okay, so yeah, Ant, what about your team with Ulysses?
Yeah, so I'll play something similar. Instead of the Stormbreaker on Ulysses, I played the Crimson Gem because I thought of a couple of different scenarios where, not being able to go through blocking or someone trying to like barrier up because they were afraid of, the Alpha Strike or not being able to get through, um, certain maps, because a lot of the maps that are at the like top of the meta are like extremely restrictive. So you want to be able to still have that movement, still do placement, because if you can't place with Diana because of the board restrictions, or if you can't get to a team with the Alpha Strike because of all this blocking, you're kind of like behind the eight ball, and it gives them a chance to come to you first. So I went with the Crimson Gem on Ulysses, and then I played Diana as well with the best equipment you can have on her, which is the Hell Cycle. And then PJ Scott and Lucas Pog, as well as the Perdegaton with the Bloodstone, because I think personally, I think that the Bloodstone is probably a top two equipment in the game with as much like herb going around, or like Cthon or things like that, and or like people trying to heal off their stop click or regen or things that have free regen. It kind of like neutralizes those things. So I think it's very important to be in heavy consideration on any team that you build. And then Cheer Panther, and Kevin. So with the Kevin being able to reroll Ulysses super senses, or reroll his damage effect, where he can only take one damage or can possibly heal. I think all those things are incredible factors. I think the pairing of the Ulysses with the Kevin, if you're playing Ulysses, I think you should be playing Kevin. But that I only played that team because I couldn't really play what I would normally play, which would be like a Hadari variant. But with the given the restrictions of the event, that's why I decided to go that way.
Well, that's actually my next point, because Luke, you played a Hadari variant, right?
Yeah, I played a Hidari Colossus build. So it's Hidari and Colossus. Hidari had the universal weapon. Colossus then had the flying carpet. And then I had Revival Wonder Woman. So I had a revival going on with Longsword on Wonder Woman, Timebreaker Pog, and Shirt. Just for like TK support. So I can cross map Hidari President.
Well, that was a very cool choice of putting the flying carpet on Colossus, giving him flying. I think that's a really cool choice. I mean, how did that help you in your games at all?
Because I thought the bunker was really popular around everywhere. So it helped me like kind of because Hadari can't shoot through blocking. So I can go wherever I want, move through it with Colossus, destroy that blocking. So then Hadari can come in and shoot. He was more like nuking a bunker so she could just come up and shoot wherever she wants to go.
Oh, very smart. Very smart. So you guys both kind of you kind of knew that the bunker was going to be out there, and you guys both counter built against the bunker a little bit. And other restrictive maps, I would say. Like, there's a lot of restrictive maps.
Like Maze, Mansion, all types of those maps that have like a lot of blocking. I wanted Colossus for that. And then there's all the elevated differences. I just didn't want to have to worry about like elevated for charge and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Moving around characters.
So, what were your games like in the tournament?
Me?
Yeah, you can start.
I mean, all of them were pretty competitive. I think definitely the hardest one was Brandon's for sure. But yeah, most of them were pretty competitive, I'd say. It was a lot of fun time.
Yeah. I mean, Ken, do you want to talk about like some of the games that you had?
Sure. So first thing, I mean, round two, I played Luke, and I had a plan for his team as long as Colossus cannot fly. That flying, being able to destroy, blocking, it's so important on Colossus. The flying carpet almost should always be on Colossus now. I think that's just a match. And there, I mean, I lost to Luke. I don't remember what the score was or anything like that, but I know I lost that game bad. That combination there, Hadari, Colossus with the flying carpet, that's tough to deal with. That, and I played 3 different Hadari Colossus variants in the Swiss rounds. So that was, and I went 1 and 2 against them. It's a very tough team to play against for sure.
Yeah. And Brandon, what were your games like?
Mine were a mix of like, I don't want to say like competitive and casual, but like higher end casual to like competitive. It felt like a few times that like Ken got like the harder half of the teams we were facing because he goes and he's like, "Oh my God, I'm tired of playing Hadari and Colossus," and I'm like, "I haven't seen any all day," until the end with Luke. I mean, like the first person I played against, like it was a Kong, Man Thing, Jennifer Kale with like the Prime Rhodes, so it was like long reach with like different methods of attack. So that was like I had like adapt to like which threat do I take out first. Second game was Ant and Ken I both like Ken lost to Luke, I lost to Ant. And that was obviously the most difficult game of the day because I didn't win it. But I mean Ant's always a great player to play against and it's always a fun game between us and you always come out learning something or thinking of something you didn't know beforehand. Um, After that, I had a pretty fun game against Brian Galley. We got to talk a lot, and that was really great. And then the last game after that, trying to remember what my last game was before Top Cut. Oh, it was against Abdul, and it was a very similar matchup. He had Diana with Cap. He had Prime Black Panther, and that was like a very like who's gonna go first and who's gonna hit first, and and then in Top Cut, I finally got my revenge on McConnell because it was the first time I ever beat McConnell, and he always gets those rollouts, and it's always when they're only on a six. And like he'll have Diana, no, nothing else, just a six Wonder Woman senses, and he'll hit it like 5 times in a row.
That's great.
And
Yeah.
so like we're calling our match the Revenge of the Six because one of the things that helped me is my Diana hit the six. And I said like, yeah, how does it feel? How does it feel all those times you hit it to me? So that was great. And then game with Luke it was a bloodbath, like with Luke. Like it was, I mean, even though like I won, he still got like over 200 points off me. Like it was a bloodbath on both sides. It was crazy. It was like a white knuckle fight from the start.
Ant, could you describe some of your games or how'd it go?
Yeah, I think the games were definitely competitive. I think that fortunately for me, I think almost all my games, with the exception of one, I went first. And if you pay attention to like the elo stats or like any of those things, like when it talked about how if you go first, shout out to whoever does the elo. Hopefully they can change my name to Ant instead of put my whole government out there. But yeah, no, I think the stat was something like if you go first, you have like a 55% chance of winning. And if the person that's going first is in the top 15 or 16 or something like that, you have like an 88% chance of winning. And so fortunately for me, I got to go first a lot of times. And we play a dice game, and ultimately it comes down to whose dice are rolling best in those games. So they were definitely really competitive, a lot of strategy. One of the things that I do prior to the game that like I'm all about like the mental preparation of like HeroClix. I know a lot of players may not really like think about the mental aspect of it of like playing the games ahead of time, but like I play dozens and dozens of games in my head like daily. So like I'm already prepared for like most scenarios when I'm put in them. So it's like a comfort of like, hey, your dice didn't work out this game. What do you do in this scenario? So I think it gives me like a competitive itch because I don't know if every player is really sitting around daily, thinking about a scenario and putting themselves in it to see how they would combat it. And I do that like almost every day.
Yeah, that's great. And so like another, by the way, you guys were talking about, I mean, Brandon, you were talking about McConnell. He did post some questions in the discussion group on Facebook. He says, what would you have changed about your team if the restriction of no shared game elements was removed? So I don't know. Anybody can answer this. Like, what would you have changed if that restriction was removed?
I probably wouldn't have played my team. I probably would have played Hadari. I strongly believe that Hadari is a top two piece in the game, and maybe not two. I think that Hadari Pulse Wave is just so disruptive to the game, borderline toxic, because it's really nothing you can do. If it gets to a point in the game and the player plays it well, it's very few things you can do. I think it is not Yeah, so I probably would have played Hadari. But in terms of to answer it like specifically, if I had to play that team, I would definitely have added like Beetlejuice on the sideline because I couldn't have it because my partner had it. But those would probably be the two like biggest things. Either having Beetlejuice if I had to play the same team, or switching to a variant of Hadari because I feel like it's a top two figure in the entire game right now.
Yeah, I think. I mean, what do you think is? I'm curious. What do you think is the other figure? Is Colossus?
I will say that right now, the two most prevalent figures in the meta are Hadari and Collector. Um, just because he has the ability to like remove things from the game without even doing damage to him. Giving those collection tokens can be very, very pivotal in changing the game. Um, and you have to have a plan. Like it's easier to have a plan for Hadari than it is for Collector, because Collector still has stop clicks, which buys him turns in large, right? You can get to yourself additional turns, whereas with Hadari, if you're playing like a caveman Wally West, where you don't get the super senses, or they kill everything else on your team, um, where or they limit it to under 4, where you're taking full damage from attacks, then it's a little bit harder to mitigate that, right? You're more predicated on with Hadari, like, am I first? Okay, I'm first. I can overwhelm them before they can, mitigate some of my explosiveness. Whereas Collector, he kind of like does what he does regardless. So I would say to me, those would be like the top two, like, attacking figures. There are other figures that are like really good that aren't really, they're like support pieces, but in terms of like providing damage towards, your opponent, I would say.
I've never actually played Collector. I looked at him. I was like, I wonder if there's going to be like enough turns to rack up those Collector tokens to like actually remove stuff from the game. But it seems like does it really work? Like, does it really work? Like, have you seen it in action?
You think about it, right? A lot of the figures that you play in the top of the meta are 30, 60, 80 points or whatever the case may be, right? So if they have Predegaton, you swing at Predegaton, you can put them on the card. Or if they don't hit their super senses, or if you swing at a Loki, right? Like he said, he was playing Loki. You hit him, now he's on your card. Or even Ulysses, right? He's hard to kill, but you put 2 tokens on him, now he's on the card. You don't have to worry about all of those rollouts that he can generate. Again, provided he doesn't hit the super sense. So there's so many figures at the top of the meta. Kevin, right? He's played and getting more and more play in the meta. You hit him, you can put him on the card. Again, like there are things that are really, really good in the game, but aren't very costed in point economy, or having points where we're building a team where you're thinking about your point economy. It's very, very important. So as you build your team with your point economy, and you're thinking about wanting to have a figure that's less than 50 points, right? Because generally speaking, when you think about building a team, you're looking at figures 50 points or less. And so he excels against those teams where you're worried about your point economy, or when you're thinking about that and building your team. So,
and to speak to that, sometimes you don't even care about the super senses because you just pull rivalry.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and especially with Ulysses, because his whole thing is, oh, I'm going to take damage from an attack, and Collector's like, nah, I just hit you. You don't get your super senses, and I just collect you. You don't take any damage.
Yeah.
And that just brings up another thing, like, top 2 pieces being that, but how about the sideline? Like, you have so many other factors where the one thing that Ant just explained that could fail for Collector, like, oh, you get the super senses, because half the time when we saw Ulysses on the board, he's a 4 through 6, because you're kind of playing with the Diana, you're gonna get the Wonder Woman ability, but Rivalry just says, I don't care, I hit you, you're done, get on the card, and I get your powers.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, so like Brandon and Ken, what would you guys have done differently with your teams? If like speaking to McConnell's original question, which was if the restriction was removed from the event, where like you guys could play anything you wanted, like if you could play anything you want in 300 Modern, what would it be? Right now, would it be Hadari Colossus, or is that everybody's answer?
It's hard to beat.
Is that everybody's answer? Or?
I mean, so I always try to figure out what beats the meta. I really do. That's the way I try to play it. So I doubt that I would have played that, but it's hard to beat it. And there's no way I would have played Collector.
I gotta say the Ulysses Kevin combo is really good. It's a really good combo.
And I still believe in Black Panther Prime with Wonder Woman, like hard to, hard to deal with as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think all those things are, they have their place, but I think, if pound for pound, if you're going, do I play Ulysses? If you have given, if the world is your oyster, right? And you have all the figures at your disposal, and you're picking, do I play Hadari with this pulse wave, with the universal weapon, or do I play Ulysses? You're probably going Hadari with the pulse wave, just because she gets around Ulysses, right? She put him on a click where he no longer even has any of his good stuff. So the Kevin isn't really helping you in that case. And it puts you behind the eight ball. Like her ability to just put you behind the eight ball with one swing to your whole, and potentially do it to your whole team is devastating. If you can't mitigate it.
Do you like the universal weapon on her, or the trick arrows on her better?
I absolutely think universal weapon is the answer. I mean, I've seen trick arrows, but just being able to go pulse wave and hurt someone's entire team, right? If you're playing Timebreaker Pog or a TK, now you have pretty much the entire board. And yeah, I don't see how trick arrow is better.
Oh, I don't disagree. I mean, Tony, didn't you play Hadari Colossus?
I like trick arrows better on her. Yeah, I played Hadari Colossus and I like trick arrows better on her. Because I like that, first of all, it's kind of hard to position the pulse wave all the time, and if you're not picking pulse wave, then there's not that. I mean, I guess you could pick energy explosion or some precision strike or something like that. But I think you get a lot out of those trick arrows. There's so many different things because if you're going against the stop clicks, or if you're going against certain things that you just need to get around, and trick arrows helps you against a variety of different teams. So I think I really like trick arrows on Hadari personally, but I get why the universal weapon is very strong.
I think a lesser play that people don't highly consider is even picking super strength and picking up the herb and carrying that with you, right? In instances where you're like, I need to heal, and either the Bloodstone is gone or your opponent's not playing Bloodstone, picking super strength. Now you're carrying the herb around with you to, if you had Cthon on Storm, if you will, or Hadari, if you will, now you're mitigating that Cthon thing. So even that is a strong play, given if you can't use the parameters of a pulse wave or precision strike or energy explosion. It's just really good.
I mean, it's like anything else. The more options you have on your team, the better. And 10 points, whether it be the arrows or the universal weapon, it's it gives you so many options. And I mean, you could always just play 2 Hadaris too.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that that's optimal.
Not this. I mean, you can, but this format, I probably wouldn't go that route.
Well, you do need to have it you want to have 4 non-deities on your team, right? So if you don't have those 4 non-deities, then it makes it a little weaker. But yeah, 2 Hadaris is kind of scary. That's kind of scary, actually. But yeah, so that's moving into my next question. So first of all, I want to say congratulations to everybody here. Top 4 in the 2v2 Highlander event. Highlander Games, Boonton, New Jersey. It was a 2v2 300-point modern event. Brandon and Ken, you guys took first. Luke and Ant took second. Congratulations to all 4 of you. And so I also want to keep talking about the meta right now, the 300-point modern meta. Do you think? I mean, we're talking about a lot about Hadari. Is Hadari Colossus the number one thing, or is there? Do you think that the meta has variety right now? Is it diverse? Is it diverse enough?
I think it's a bit more diverse than it's been in the past, because for a while there, you just had Kong. You just had Kong everywhere, whether it's multiple 50-point Kongs or 200-point Kong and some support. I forget which event it was last year that every team in top 8 was Kong plus something else. And see, but the nice thing about that is it was the first time that we had such a highly powerful meta piece that people could just buy. You didn't have to hope you pull it out of a booster or pay $100+ for it. But then before that, you had MOE swap, you had Carnage Surfer, and it was you had to have these pieces, Scarlet Witch, all that stuff. Now I think it is more varied than it's been for a while. Like, yeah, I still think Hidariao and Colossus are at the top of the game, but like Ant also said, you have Collector. I mean, if you have a Colossus and you can hold him off for what, 3 turns, and then Collector just hits him, boom, done. He's out. No impervious. I don't care. You're on the card. So you have that. You have Ulysses, which is just a super rare that with a 5 point pog, Lucas, PJ Scott, or with a super rare Ghost Rider, his rollout isn't going to go away by Pulse Wave. You can keep that too. And none of those pieces, well, except for the pog maybe, are super hard to get or super expensive to get. You have different answers for different things that we didn't have before.
And like Kong actually is still viable. I mean, especially even after the errata, like I think he's not like dominating, but you can play him and still get away with it, like and still play a good team in the meta with a Kong on your team. Like it's not a, it's like there are like what I'm trying to say is I think it is diverse. I think there are a lot of figures out there that you could just that you can put on your team that people are like, oh, like you might not think of as like your first go-to, but I mean, like Ken put Molecule Man on his team and did very well with Molecule Man. Nobody's thinking of playing Molecule Man, right? But like he used Yaka Arrow on Molecule Man. That's a really creative thing to do, and it worked. It worked as a team. So
I think, oh, sorry. I was gonna say one other thing is
yeah,
kind of to how it's varied is that there's also pieces that newer players can get their hands on that they at least feel like they have a viable chance where they will get to play the game, like Trigon. You bring a 300 point Trigon to a competitive 300 point event, you're probably not going to win, but you're gonna get to play the game. There is no way you can just get wiped out in 1 turn. Even by the most seasoned player, because Trigon doesn't allow you to do that. And this way, if you have someone that's newer to the game, but they're afraid to play any competitive event, just be like, hey, look it, get this 300 points, boom. You get to play every game. You'll probably get some points at least, but at least you get more of an experience rather than just coming to a venue, trying out once, and then just getting steamrolled in like one go. There's more accessible options for newer players, and the better players will take some of those options and just make them better than they would be otherwise. But either way, the accessibility is higher than it's ever been, as well as the variety of the meta, which I think it's a great place for the game.
I also think the meta is regional. I think this is the first time in a long time that different parts of the country have different metas. Like if you look at some of like the list from like states, if you go like to the West Coast, they play an entirely different style of meta than it is over here on the East Coast. And in the central parts of the country, like in Texas or places like that, they play a different meta as well. So I think that creates the environment where there's more diversity within the meta because there's so many different metas in so many different parts of the country. Like if you look at like most of the games on the East Coast, there's a lot of Hadari, but then on the West Coast is like a lot of Collector, and then in the middle of the country it just varies. Like I saw something where like an Avenger team won, right? Like where no one would have expected an Avenger team to do good in the format with Hadari and Collector and Ulysses and all that other stuff running around. So I think
The,
the meta does have, to speak to Brandon's point, more diversity than we may have seen like at Nationals last year, right? When they had to like really fix Kong because like the top 16, like 15 of them were Kong or something like that. Don't quote me, but it was like a large percentage of it was like just Kong. And if you weren't playing Kong, you didn't expect to win.
yeah. I think I mean I saw a Mr. Mind win one of the recent events. Mr. Mind did really well. I forgot what the trick was in that team, but it was really creative and good.
it took out a 300 point Kong somehow. It was weirder because it lost to the 300 point Kong in the first round, but then it beat the 300 point Kong later in the event.
Luke, I want to ask you. So, what do you think the current meta is shaping up to look like as far as like what figures are being overlooked? Are there any figures that are being overlooked or that are on the rise that nobody's looking at right now?
Definitely, I like the pass team. I've been looking like a pass team. I know that's kind of going around now. I see, but I really like the pass team where you can put Alpha on there. So you have the cross map hypersonic, and then you don't have to pay the extra 15 points to bring people down, and then that gets +1 damage. So I like kind of the pass team I've been looking at. But that's like not including like Adari losses.
So it says Zara Jarrell, you were saying?
Zala Zarel, and then you bring over like Super Sword or something like that. The Super Sword can make multiple attacks, so it's 5 damage, 2 with a quake. So you bring her over, bring him over, and you get like Megaton and stuff like that. Looking at the pass.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, does that have Ultra Humanite on it, or?
No, not. I know a variation where it could, because it's a guarantee first. You play like an animal team with him, and then you can get a guarantee going first. Supernova. I know that variation, but no, that's variation.
Okay. And Ken, what about you? What do you think's?
Well, I mean, the one thing I think we haven't talked about that is so important to the meta right now is Chair Panther, right? Whether he's going to be on your team, but it's almost one of those like I guess you have to talk about Beetlejuice and you have to talk about Chair Panther, like whether you're building to not face Beetlejuice or whether you're building your team so that you can bring out Beetlejuice or at least you can deal with it if it gets brought out.
Yeah.
Not to mention Chair Panther. You also can take out
Luke, where your audio is you might have to fix your audio a little bit. I'm not sure.
I do agree with you though, Ken, that Beetlejuice, you cannot build anything and not be able to say like this is viable to play if someone Beetlejuices me first turn, or have Chair Panther to mitigate the Beetlejuice being able to come out and wreck your team, especially if you're building it around tons of free actions.
Oh, I mean, I love Molecule Man. I don't know if he's quite there, but I really like him. But you can't play him against Beetlejuice. He's garbage against Beetlejuice. Like if you're going to try to play Molecule Man, Chair Panther is the only option. He has to be on your team.
All right, so what do you guys think of that scientist team then with like Swamp Thing and Man Thing? Like, does that team just die to Beetlejuice, and does it have to have Chair Panther on it, or like how?
No, so one of the things I do, I won't give you the trade craft secrets, but I think that you can play that team against Beetlejuice. You just have to play it efficiently. Does that make sense? Like you have your plays have to be well thought out, because like I've played that team, right? I've played it. And there are different variations of it, right? There are times you can play it like with Swamp Thing Prime. You can play it without him. Or you can play it with like Harley Quinn to do extra damage. But you have to be able to be strategic in your plant marker placement, because that will help you if Beetlejuice were to come to the board. Does that make sense?
Can you play it against Beetlejuice and the Bloodstone?
I haven't played it against both, but I have 100% tested it against Beetlejuice, and my version of it, I didn't feel like I can't win this game. You know what I mean?
No. Yeah, I mean, I think it's really tough to play against Beetlejuice and the Bloodstone.
For sure.
I think the only thing that really hinders the Poison Ivy plant team with Beetlejuice is that you can't poison. Because you still get the 4 at the beginning from Man Thing, and Poison Ivy putting out 1 every turn isn't free, it just happens. And her attacking through the plants is it's a costed attack. So the only thing you don't get is the poison.
You don't get the Swamp Thing free attack either, though. You don't get his free attack.
Yeah, you don't get that either.
I mean, when I think about it, like if I'm playing against the plant team, or like what my first objective is destroy the plant markers first turn, bring out Beetlejuice second turn, do my alpha, right? Like that's kind of what you want to do, right? Like
every time I play the plant team, no one goes after the actual plants. Like
I always go after the plants. Like I always
I do.
plants.
I agree. I do too.
Like
that's what I do as well.
because they can't do anything if they can't attack through the plants, if there's no plants. And then they're regulated to just getting one out every turn.
But
Yeah, for sure.
all right, so let's take a look at the next question. So anybody can answer this. I mean, Spider-Man just came out. What do you guys think about Spider-Man? Any impactful figures that come from this set? What are you most excited about with the Spider-Man set? Into the Spider-Verse.
The only two things I've seen so far, and I haven't looked at it as deeply as I would have liked to, but I think he's an uncommon Norman Osborn. He has TK, and then when he TKs a person, they get +2 range afterward.
Crazy.
Yeah, that's
35
kind of
points.
yeah. And then the Prime Spider Ham, giving everyone on your team plasticity is nice, but also giving everyone the symbiote fusion trait where they can't be shot if they're within 4 squares of an opposing character.
Yeah.
And then you couple that, and I don't think this one has any. It could. I won't say it can't. But the Mysterio chase, that any opposing character within 3 squares of a character named Mysterio, and he makes the Mysterio goons, can't use improved targeting. Like that could be something.
Wait, so the goons can't use it? Like anyone
No,
within?
no. So Mysterio, the chase, right?
Yeah.
He makes the expendable goons that are just called Mysterio. I think they're like 002 in the set. And he has a power saying any opposing character within range of a friendly character named Mysterio can't use improved targeting abilities. He also gives all friendly Sinister Syndicate characters stealth.
Yeah, so that's really good. Yeah. How many points is he? He's 50 or something, I think.
50, yeah. And he has a if there's no he has a trait kind of like the old Mary Jane Watson. If there's no other friendly characters named Mysterio on the board, you can roll a d6 and generate I think that many of the 002s within range and line of fire. And then you can swap placement between them.
I think that Spider Ham Prime is going to go good with like the Ulysses Bloodstone Diana teams, right? Like they're getting in close, and now they can't get shot at, right?
I think another thing that is really good in the set, sneaky good in the set. I won't say really good, but sneaky good is the Spider-Man, is super rare Spider-Man. It's the Indian Spider-Man, and when he's placed, characters on your team with the Spider-Man family, keyword, they can't be pulse waved or energy explosion. And I think because of Hadari being at the top, if you're playing Spider-Man, you play all you got to do is TK him, or if you carry him and place him, because all he has to do is be placed. Now they can't do what they're trying to really do, and everyone gets protected pulse wave and protected energy explosion, which is really good. And he already has prob and amongst other things on his dial, the wall crawler trait, et cetera, et cetera. But
That
I
would
think,
also work with the Spider-Verse thing too, that he can get placed.
yeah, so I think he can be sneaky good. He's kind of a lot of points, though. I think he's like 70 points. Um, but I think that's sneaky good. And he got super senses 4 through 6, like any Spider-Man would. He has willpower. So I think he's sneaky good. The Spider-Ham is good. I think Spider-Ham personally right now, to me, the way it shakes out, the Spider-Ham is probably the best piece in the entire set, in my opinion. Just because of everything he provides and what he gives. And then, even though the 16 square knockback is niche, if the ruling becomes that every time they hit blocking or elevation, they take damage, you can pair him with Stormbreaker, and then they would take one penetrating every single time, which is absolutely ridiculous.
I was looking at that too. I was looking at that too.
So like, him being able to do that, which pretty much puts you on the other side of the map, which, if you're hitting somebody that they need on that side of the map and they're on the other side, they're unlikely to get back. And if the ruling shakes out to whereas when they hit elevation or blocking, they take 1 damage for each they hit, they're taking penetrating damage now, and that's just ridiculous.
And I don't think that because I think Spider-Ham gives all friendly characters that trait. So like it doesn't get through like a pulse wave, even if he's not there, it still would negate it. But if you've got the Indian Spider-Man, like you said, I'm pretty sure the Spider-Ham is still Spider-Man family. Like that compared with that, like the whole team just looks at Hadari Yao and is like, "Hi, we don't really care."
Yeah. So yeah, I think those are probably the two pieces that I'm like, man, these. Oh, I also think Hypno Hustler. Not to give away secrets, but I think Hypno Hustler is pretty good.
Oh
I
yeah.
think Kangaroo is pretty good. I think he's been overlooked. Kangaroo at 30 points, for what he does at 30 points, I think he can be pretty good. They're more like niche. Like you have to obviously find something to pair it and make it effective, but their keywords aren't bad. So with the keywords not, I think the first thing you look at a piece, especially if you're trying to do theme, right? Because as I just rattled off the numbers of going first, right? If you want to go first, you're thinking theme. So with the keywords, you want to make sure the keywords aren't bad, and their keywords aren't bad, and I think they have some viability. But overall, in terms of the set, I don't really see a whole lot. I think Spider-Man 2099 has some legs. It's just that he's outwittable, which is the biggest problem for him. 90 points for outwittable character is a lot of points to put on somebody that they could just say, no, you don't do what you say you do. But
In
charging and then running shot or running shot and then charging, that can be good too.
in modern, I don't think he'll be super great. Not talking about Spider-Man, but looking at Sandman, the Chase. If we ever get anything good that's like Sinister Syndicate, his ability to say Sinister Syndicate characters' damage can't be reduced below his printed damage value is can be sneaky good because like he's got poison and he's giant. He can poison like 3 squares out. And if you have characters like if we get a good like Doc Ock or Sinister Syndicate character with Flurry, or if you go back into Silver and play a good Sin Sin team, like if you have any reducer, it doesn't matter because if you play them at 75, they're doing at least 3 damage. At 50, they're still doing at least 2. So it's like a souped up precision strike. And if they have poison, it still counts for them too.
Yeah.
Luke, what do you think about the Spider-Man set? Any figures you're looking at?
I really like the glider because I play Colossus a lot, so I like the glider and then putting that on Colossus. So then it gives him flight, precision, and combat reflexes. So and I feel like precision is always good for Colossus because I like my biggest problem with Colossus is like super senses, so they have a less chance to hit the super senses. So I really like the glider a lot.
Nice. And do you have any like actual other than the equipment? What figure any figures from the set
Oh,
or?
I haven't really looked at the set yet. I kind of just looked at the glider for right now. I haven't done too much research of the set yet. So I don't really know anything.
Okay, okay. Ken, what do you think? Have you looked at the set at all or?
So I always I try very hard to not look at a set until I play in the very first sealed event that I'm playing in because it just makes that event more fun because I'm getting to see stuff that I've not ever seen or anything like that. So literally, I've not looked at anything from the set. I'm listening to Ann Brandon like, oh shit, like wow, that's cool. But yeah, I haven't looked at it at all.
Yeah, I mean we're recording on Tuesday, so I think it releases tomorrow, right? I think the set
Yeah,
releases
but so
tomorrow.
I won't look at it. So Saturday at the or Sunday at the place. I don't know if I'm going to Brandon's or if I'm going to the place where I go on Sundays. But depending on which one I'm going to, that'll be the first time I really look at it because I just find it so fun to open up sealed and click the dials and not have any idea what you're looking at.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I mean like I try to avoid the spoilers when I can because I like to be surprised. But they do come. They do come, and I sometimes I get like sucked into like team building because I'll be on HC units like all night long. Like like I'll be in bed like on my phone like HC units like. I'm just building teams like all the time. So like even like when it says first released or spoiled, I'm always on there just trying to like do stuff with new figures.
I
Um,
will say one of the nice things, even though sadly this is the second Spider-Man set in a row that got spoiled ahead of time somehow, um, I didn't really see most of the sculpts. We just see like the cards and like if you see like the HC Realms threads or HC units, just putting up the dials and everything. But it is kind of neat to see some of the sculpts, and I will say like that place was still fun. Like the Doc Ock sculpts in it look awesome. The Sandman sculpt is probably the best Sandman they've ever made.
Hmm.
Electro sculpt is awesome, the lightning bolt behind him. So at least we have that, and I will say, at least from that standpoint, it was fun to see the new sculpts that they did, and that they're putting, more and more effort, like they said years ago, into every set to make the sculpts more dynamic and more fun to at least play on the board.
I honestly would like to see more vague sets, and not vague in terms of like the set itself being vague, but like, and maybe vague isn't the word, but like obscure like hero sets. Like I would like to see like a Daredevil brick. You know what I mean? And Daredevil in his role gallery, however small or big they may be, and maybe you turn it into like Midnight Suns or Luke Cage and them, or
Like a Marvel Knights set.
yeah, like maybe they've done that recently, but I haven't been playing. I've only been playing since 2018, and I haven't yet. I've yet to see that, but I would like to see that, like, because some of the street level heroes are good too. Like, and I just think that a lot of the sets that are produced are of the popular people: Spider-Man, X-Men, Justice League, those types of things, and you may get one Daredevil and you're like, come on, like I want a good Daredevil, or I want a good, Luke Cage that I can play, or a good Iron Fist that, isn't niche, that I could actually play this, or Jessica Jones, or Purple Man, just something that I don't know.
Did you play when Avengers Defenders War came out?
That was before my time.
Okay. If you ever want
I
to look
was
at
just starting. I was just starting during that set. Yeah.
If you ever look back at that, Ant, that I describe that as like the Netflix set because there's some other stuff in it, but the majority of it is Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, Punisher, and there's a Purple Man in that set. There's a Jessica Jones, 25 points. Characters within six can't use stealth. And like the fast forces from that set was just Daredevil, Elektra, Jessica Jones, Punisher, Luke Cage, Iron Fist.
Yeah, I
Like,
just think like
yeah.
instead of just giving us Spider-Man over and over again, or Spider-Man adjacent things over, or X-Men. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like X-Men as much as the next guy, but like I just want to see some different stuff
Well, we
personally.
had that Marvel Next Phase was recent, but like I don't think Daredevil was in that set, right? I don't. Was
We
he?
got
And
Kingpin.
the
You got
Daredevil one
Kingpin.
was decent. He was decent, but he wasn't like, yeah, he was decent. He wasn't great. He was decent though. I don't know.
Yeah,
I just think, and it doesn't have to be Daredevil per se. I just want to see some, some lesser known or some lesser um, fan favorites get, some more time to shine. I think that's better
yeah.
for the game.
Well, I think that's. I mean, not to spoil the set, but I think the Spider-Man set has a lot of lesser known characters like Kangaroo and Hypno Hustler, like you were
Sure.
mentioning. Like these characters, nobody thinks that. I mean, like I don't. A lot of them, I don't know who they are. Like,
But I want more of that though. You know what I mean? Don't give it us once a year or once every 2 years. Give us more of these, lesser known characters. Or like I know it was a big thread about like one of the Pogs in the Spider-Man set. Like people were saying that the character he hadn't been created in a long time, but his Pog was like dual-sided. Like instead of giving us a Pog, give us a character. Like I just think that it's the game newer players when they come in and they see their favorite character, right? And their favorite character may not be Spider-Man or X-Men or a Justice League figure. And they see them as a good figure, right? And we can literally, in all candor, just say, hey, this is your favorite guy. He actually is good. I think that's good for the game,
yeah, that's great for the game. Yeah.
That's actually why I was excited. I mean, we were lucky that it was one of the best sets to come out, and still is in some ways. But that's why I was excited when Wonder Woman 80th came out like 4 years ago, because it was Wonder Woman, not Justice League, not Batman. It was Wonder Woman. Like, okay, we're gonna get some niche characters like Cersei and Apollo and like these other gods and everything, different characters from that end of the DC, not just the same old stuff. And it was just nice that we got different characters, and it was also a great set. So like, anyone that's a Wonder Woman fan, that's like the main set for them.
Yeah, I just think it helps grow the game. Like when we just get characters we haven't seen in a while. Or and more importantly, sculpts that aren't just regurgitated, right? Like that's another thing. Like, come on, man, I don't like want the same sculpt like from yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
Hopefully Smash and Destroy does that. Like we get Hulk villains we haven't seen in forever. Hopefully the Juggernaut's as good as this Juggernaut, and both the sculpts look awesome. We get like Red She-Hulk and Absorbing Man and and stuff like that that we haven't seen in a while.
Yeah.
So yeah, so like I know Luke talked about the past team with what was with Diana and Super Sort. Was it Diana? No, Zala Jor-El, right? Zala Jor-El and Super Sor. Does anybody else have like a meta style team that or figure that you are looking to build around in the future that might be like a sleeper? Sleeper figures.
We can't give you our trade secrets that everybody else
I want to specifically hear from Ant. I want to hear his trade secrets.
Hey, we can't give you our trade secrets. Can't do that. But to answer your question,
secret tech right now.
yeah, to answer your question vaguely, I do have something in the works. I like building similar to what you said, in, like when you're up late, just building on AC units. I like look through things and I try to find something that I can pair it with that I know people aren't going to be ready for or people aren't going to be expecting as much as some of the upper echelon. Don't get it wrong. I still play upper echelon stuff, but I like to tie in like a piece that maybe you weren't thinking about or a component of it that maybe you said, that's very, interesting. And that takes it to the next level. But I'm not going to give you any specificity, if you will.
Okay, Ken or Brandon, is there anything you guys are thinking about building around, like vaguely or specifically, if you guys want to be specific?
So I am trying to look it up right now because I was actually building last night, looking at. I know the Pog was from Collector's Trove. Zelma. So Zelma's 20 points. She can be equipped, and so I mean the thought there is that if you're looking to equip somebody that you can't normally equip, right? So that you can actually put an equipment on her, however you want to do it. It doesn't matter. Put her on elevated, destroy the elevated. She dies. Now the equipment's there. You equip it to somebody that normally couldn't be. She's 20 points. And I mean, just throwing out like Kong, like you can give the motorcycle to Kong now. You can, different things like that. Like I do think there's, and it's one of those things that sometimes you have to look at things that it may not be there right now, but it might be there. Another one is the one that gives you the minimum range of 4. Right. There's no good hypersonic character that currently has like 0 range right now, but there could be in Spider. Like I haven't looked at Spider-Man. There could be in Spider-Man like something there where now all of a sudden you're giving an equipment to a character where they had 0 range. Now they have a minimum of 4. Like some of those things that I'm always playing with things like that and looking at that and seeing if there's something that can be done there.
Brandon?
Nothing new since our last just big event that passed, but before that I was looking like I was in the mental state of like if I wanted to build something it was going to be Ulysses with Kevin. I just didn't have a Kevin. And then when we had like a test game the week before Highlanders event, and Ant proved to me that like this is something that's viable. So I'm like, all right, I'm grabbing to Kevin. Like I knew I was right. I knew I was onto something, and like Ant just was like, yeah, you were right. So I was just like, that's what I went with. But that's been the only thing that like looking right now because I think rollouts are just defensively the way to go. And there's so many things that you can enhance the rollouts. You have Kevin, you have the common Miles from Black Panther to get everyone Spider-Man. We have equipment that gives shape change and super senses. Like I think that's the way. Like you can manipulate those rollouts. You can have the highest attack in the game, but except for rivalry, of course, because rivalry just trumps the super senses too. But shape change just that can stop it as well. It's like that's where I'm looking at right now.
I mean, one thing I was looking at, I mean, I'll just share a couple things I was looking at. I mean, I've noticed that something that's doing well, that's kind of under the radar, is Super Rare Juggernaut. Super Rare Juggernaut with Colossus on the same team, or yeah, actually, what I was looking at as like a cool combo was actually Juggernaut equipped with the longsword. if you equip him with the longsword, and then you can use Ares, and he can do his splash damage with Ares, and it's +1 damage because of the longsword's +1 damage on blades rolls. So that's really strong, and then he gets that extra splash damage afterwards when he uses it close. So it could be potentially a lot of damage that using the longsword on him. You just need to equip the Crimson Gem to another character so that you can get through blocking. But I
You
I,
Oh no, go ahead, because you remind me of something else I could actually answer to.
yeah, so that was just an idea I had with Juggernaut, but I think Juggernaut with Colossus is really strong just because they're two really solid pieces by themselves. I mean, obviously it's not as good as Hadari Colossus, but I think if you're looking to play something different, that might be a good option, you know?
I think another figure though that shouldn't ever be slept on, especially with the resurgence of equipments, is Elsa Bloodstone Prime. Like her viability right now, with a lot of things being equipped. She'd be good against Hadari. She'd be good against Collector. She'd be good against Ulysses. She'd be good against, and the list can go on and on and on. And never underestimate the value of a free attack that you can trick arrow off of, right? So you
Mm-hmm.
can free attack, trick arrow. So, you could do 4 damage if something doesn't have a reducer, or 5 damage, including the knockback, and take their equipment. Um, it's, that's something that should not be understated, especially with equipments, them producing more and more equipments. And then I don't know if they'll be in the same window in terms of in the meta, like with the lantern stuff coming out and them saying that rings are going to be back, being able to take them, especially if they're really good, and if they're everywhere. And she's still modern legal because she's probably going to age out after Worlds. But if she's still here, and there's a format where they're both here, she'll be especially good then too.
I think
One
another. Oh, go ahead.
I would say one thing to answer your question of what I was looking at before and thinking of was like Colossus with like what Luke was talking about before, like the glider, or the longsword, to give him blades. Because with Ares and then the longsword specifically, you'd be dealing 5 damage to everyone he's hitting. And make do pin particles, make him giant, and then you have like a giant reach around him that you're just dealing 5 to everyone that he hit. Because it would be the base you would do with the blades would be his print at -1, but then the longsword says you increase the damage dealt by 1. So it would just be 5 to every single hit target. And I thought that might be something worth looking into or working with.
I mean, other figures that I mean, obviously the Mern is still awesome. Like a lot of people forget about Mern, but like in this age where we have all these restrictive maps with blocking and everything, like being able to see through blocking with Mern is really good. I think Beta Ray Bill maybe might be something to look at, right? Because like he turns off um cosmic energy.
You just
Uh,
gotta keep him protected. Because
Yeah,
I
that's what I
think
was about to
he
say.
just
he
like
goes down. He goes down easily. Yeah.
But if you have him protected, then yeah, if you can get the jump on someone, like with a Colossus or Hidari, um, then you can easily, make use of that. But the only thing with Beta Ray Bill is you could also just play like the Mind Gem for 10 points. And if you have like a Colossus or someone like that that you just have to hit and take away the power, and then instead of having a 60-point character that's just gonna sit there, you just burn the Mind Gem and then just plow through them.
And you have to have line of sight for his thing to where they only take one. So that can be really restrictive with, again, these restrictive maps. You could just block his line of sight with someone, and
Oh yeah.
now he can't save them, which can be, a drawback. Because if you're playing him, you want him to be able to at least get his value, and you lose that if he can't even see who he's trying to protect.
I mean, if you have Millionaire on him, at least helps because you can see through characters that way. But he removes the equipment from the game when he does that, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you do that and he goes down, then that's 70 points out the gate.
Yeah. A
Yeah.
lot of points.
Or you're paying 10 points to bring it back to him. but then
And then
if
you
they
just
still
lose.
kill him,
Yeah.
you lost 80 points. That's why I was thinking if he's viable in that sense, I actually like him better with Shuri because she can just keep giving him stuff. And if he, throws out the equipment, who cares? There's 0 points, and they're both warrior, so they can theme.
Oh, what do you guys
And
think about that 60-point Shuri from the 400 Wakanda set? Is she
I
60
like
points? I
it.
think she's 60
Yeah,
points.
there's a 100 point, 60 point line. You mean the one with the perplex, and when she perplexes a friendly, they play some four squares out
Yeah,
if she's a
it's
ring.
almost like a Venom Magneto type. Not exactly, but you can do that because right,
Well, it's
you
better
can move her and
because
then perplex somebody and then place them.
yeah, because you can well, it's only friendlies, and you have to burn a vibranium token. But it's better than a Venom Magneto because it's not even TK. It's just place four squares. You don't even need line of fire.
Yeah.
Um, but again, Sans Beetlejuice, it's great. 60 points, I'm not sure, but it's something that might be slept on, and it's definitely worth looking at because especially if there's like another 2v2 event like this where someone's got to use time breakers, she might be a viable option where you're like, hey, I can still get my Diana across the map because I just perplex her up and boom, she's gone.
Hmm. Plus, you're getting the benefit of the perplex too.
Yeah. Yeah, so there might be, and she's gonna be around when the time breakers rotate after Worlds. So she might have a later resurgence because that'll be like the next best thing. And Diana will still be around, but the health
Oh,
cycle won't, so it might not
yeah.
matter.
Oh yeah. The character's name is Black Panther. I called her Shuri, but it was Black Panther.
It's Shuri Black Panther, yeah.
Yeah. And then
But
also,
I was gonna say that might be where Zala Jarrell that Luke was talking about. Then that might make her more viable than Diana because Diana was only good because of Hell Cycle. Zala doesn't need that. She already has Hypersonic.
one other figure I was thinking about that maybe could be built around that. I don't know if you could figure out a way to do a good job with this figure is Legacy Nick Fury with the 9 range. I mean, can we make that work? Like we were actually toying around with it. Me and Abdul were toying around with making a team with Nick Fury.
So the first team I played in the cut the top 4 had that Nick Fury on it, and it was very tough. He had Nick Fury was on there, and the Sentinel, the Phoenix Sentinel,
Mm.
destroy the blocking because he doesn't see through blocking. It was tough for me to deal with. I mean, every round he kept taking away my Yaka arrows. I could not use the Yaka arrows, which obviously really hurt on my team.
Oh yeah, we had Shadow. I think it was Mike Kornichek. Was he playing Solaris? Who was
Yeah,
playing Solaris?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And he was playing Solaris as
he was
well.
playing
Yeah.
Solaris.
He was the salt to McConnell's pepper.
Yeah, they did quite well. They did quite well in the event. So, but yeah,
It was a tough team to deal with. I mean, I didn't win the game. Yeah, it was very tough to deal with.
all right. So let's I think we talked a lot about different teams, different pieces, different figures, whatever. The Spider-Man set as well. We talked about. Let's just I wanted to ask Brandon. So I have a couple of questions just for Brandon. First of all, Nicole asks, why were you called Rick's greatest boys, and who is Rick? I know the answer, but it helps promote the guild. This is directly this is directly from Facebook. And then also another question was about your map. Brandon actually designed a map. He designed the mansion map. So if you want to tell your story about how that came to fruition, how did you get to design a map? That sounds really cool.
Well, let me answer Nicole's question first, because if I forget to do that, I'll pay for that later. We were called Rick's Bestest Boys because one, neither Ken nor I could think of a team name, and it was later, like I think Friday night, and none of us were going to try that hard to think of one. And Rick is our judge at the Banish Zone, which is the store we usually play at. He's also the founder of our guild, the Guild of Mute Assassins. That's our clan name on the win. And he's the one that's always running our events, making our events. He's the one that kind of brought us all together in one way or another. And for years, when we didn't have a good venue to play at, we had a few shops around the area. He was always the one to like make the events and everything. And so we kind of came there as like, representing our guild, and in a way representing him because he's the one who always helps organize stuff, and he has probably the biggest library of clicks out of all of us. So it's always like if you need a piece, he's like, "Yo, hit me up," you know. And so that was kind of honoring him, like, "Hey, we're out here playing. You weren't able to come, but at least we want to say thank you for being you." So that's why I named us that. Um, so the mansion map, how that came about, like, do you want to know how I got to make it, or like what my
Well,
inspiration
I
was
guess
to make it?
it's two questions. I guess it's how'd you get to make it, and what was your inspiration in choosing the look of it?
Okay, so how I got to be able to make it. So every year for Heroclix for Huntingdons, I'm sure the viewers are familiar with the auction that happens. And if you're not, how it works is every year for that charity event, there's an auction, usually the Saturday night of the event, and they use an app called Auxit to run the auction. And how it works is that the auction usually closes around 9 o'clock, and if there's any bids open, the bid will ride for another minute. If no bids put in, then it will close. If another bid is put in, then it'll add another minute onto the timeline. So you can't like snipe a bid at the end of it like on eBay or something like that. And me and someone else were going after the design of switch clicks. And 9 o'clock hit and it crashed. And basically, I was the last bid put in, so I kind of won it by default. And I was like, all right, cool. And then I got an emailer that night from the Oxit team asking, hey, look at because of what happened, how it happened, would you be willing to forfeit the win and let the bid ride because someone else was willing to put a lot more money down for it? And again, this is all going to charity, So I'm like, sure, and they're like, hey, look at if you don't want to, don't feel forced to in any way. Congrats on winning the bid, but we'll compensate you in some way to make up for it. And I was like, no, that's fine, that's cool. If they're gonna put that much more money on it, it's going to the charity. That's why we're here anyway. Go for it. Let them have it. And later that next day, I didn't go to the last day of H4H because I was down there with family. And Nicole went there, and Howard ran into her, and he asked if I was there, and she said no. And he said, "Well, I'm the head of the Rock, so I'll let him instead make a map for giving up that bid." And then I talked with him later on in the summer, and he was like, "I have a crazy idea for your map, and then I'll let you design the state championship map." So that's how I got to make the map.
Very cool. Very cool.
And so for people that have seen some of my posts online, I got into like the custom Heroclix game about like a year or so ago, and it really blew up when last Christmas I put a post up of like the 12 or so figures I did of my custom Resident Evil set. I built a booster, painted the figures, made the dials, cards, all that. And obviously, with figures, you want a map to play them on. So when Howard was like, "Hey, you get to make a map," it was a very quick decision of where I want to go. And so the map is based off of, in no way exactly like, the first Resident Evil game, and it takes inspiration from the mansion that most of that game takes place in. And so I went through a few revisions with Aaron on making the map. We had toned down the restrictiveness because Major Brock's Bunker had just come out and they were trying not to go super crazy restrictive with, indoor walls and all that. So I'm like, all right, fine, I'll blow up half the map. So that's why half is indoor, half is outdoor. And I mix it up with adding in water terrain on the one corner and hindering on the other. Again, kind of playing homage to certain levels of the game. There's some things in there that are like, if you know, you know, like I have shattered glass from broken windows and stuff like that. I also got to put in our guild logo on two parts of the map.
Oh, cool.
The skull in the foyer on the marble floor is our win symbol. And then if you're looking at the map where the hindering and the water is at the top, on the right side in the one room, there's like a decorative plate, and if you look on that plate, the Guild of Mute Assassins logo is on there.
That's very cool. That's nice insider information about that map. I'm going to look for those things. That's
So yeah,
really cool.
the skull's pretty easy to see, but like you'll miss the logo if you're not looking for it.
I'm
But yeah, it's in one of the rooms and it's kind of like looking down on it, but it's definitely there. And if you look at the picture from Highlander Games that Scott took of me and Ken, all of us there, and our shirts had the logo on it, you'll see that logo is the one in the map.
Well, I gotta say, I like playing the mansion map. It's a fun map to play on, so I really enjoy
Thank
it.
you. If I could, I would have them remake the underground map, the rock map from a bunch of years ago.
Yeah.
That's still my favorite map to this day, and anytime I get a chance to play it, I will. Everyone else in the group hates it, but it's still my favorite map to play. Like, and it probably will ever forever be.
So, all right. So, let me go to everybody else and just like I want to. We're wrapping up pretty soon, but I want to see if anybody has any last words. Maybe just like I mean, this is a question asked on like every podcast, but I mean, I think it would be a good question. Like, what figure would you design if you won Worlds? Like, I mean, I think that's a cool question to ask. I think they ask that on like every podcast, but like or we could just go around and say last words, whatever you guys want to do. I mean, let's start with Ant.
If I could make a figure, Gambit is probably like my all-time favorite character, but they've been making like an influx of him lately. I also really like Silver Surfer. You don't really see a lot of him. Even though they've made a few, none of them have been particularly good. So I would probably make a Silver Surfer that was better than average. Because the one that was pretty good was like not even like non-rad. It was like a skull or something like that, or a scroll. So
You
yeah, I
don't
would
think
probably,
Carnage Surfer was a good Silver Surfer?
but
Oh.
I mean, it's not really, that's not Silver Surfer though. Like it's really, him with Carnage. You know what I'm saying? Like,
No, I know.
yeah. So like him alone, I would want to see like him alone be good. And that's very rare. I can't think of a Silver Surfer just that is just like Silver Surfer offhand. That's like, oh, that was pretty good. So I will probably go that route.
Luke, what about you? Hold on, Luke. Your sound is off or it's not working. I don't know. Um, yeah, it was mute. No, I can't hear you. Um, let me come back to you. I'll come back to you. Let me ask Ken. Ken, what would you say?
Without a doubt, Damian Wayne's I mean, Batman's my favorite, but even more so since Damian Wayne's came out. So I'm going to design one, and I don't even know what I would put on him. Like I've never given it that much thought, but without a doubt, that would be the character.
Cool. Damian Wayne, I like that. Brandon.
Um, so they've made the first two answers that I would have said years back, because when I got into the game, I wanted to make the Colossal Carnage, and they did that. And then they made the Carnage Silver Surfer. So probably for, I mean, and they made the Ninja Turtles. That would be my other thing if I could have. I would probably say like a duo figure with like Carnage and Shriek. Because I doubt they'll ever do that. Not that we haven't had an influx of Carnage in the last Spider-Man set, but that's probably what I would go with. For and if it was like if it had to be like DC, because I know like they give you like you can choose from a list of like what you want to do, and they have to choose which one you can. Um, I would say either like a good Zatanna, like the one in Master of Time just made my heart sink.
I like that Satana. Yeah, she's a good uncommon. For
She's not bad as an uncommon, but like I played the living crap out of the super rare from Batman animated series. Like that
yeah.
was
She was great too. Yeah.
if I could legacy a character, like she's my like number one for legacy.
My wife's favorite figure is that Zatanna, the one with the little John Constantine bunny.
Oh yeah, the bombshell. Yeah.
Yeah, the bombshell Zatanna. She loves that figure. She absolutely loves it.
She was good too. She was good too. That's why I was just kind of like disappointed like the new one wasn't that great. If I can't do Zatanna, probably the Question. Like I love the Question from Justice League Unlimited, like that show. I mean the show's amazing, but he was my favorite character in that show. So probably one of those two for DC, and then Carnage and Shriek for Marvel. Can't think of Anyone else? Or like a good Taskmaster.
Okay. Yeah. Taskmaster. I like all the versions of Taskmaster they come out with. All the anything with like keyword cheating. I think didn't they have one that like had every keyword or something like that? Or I forgot.
The Avengers, Black Panther, Illuminati didn't count against theme teams,
Okay.
and then the Black Widow Taskmaster, the Chase one, to me was like the perfect one because he had a power where he would, if he's targeted, he copies a power from who targeted him, and you could play around with that where you give him like stupid senses with Wonder Woman or Spider-Man,
Hmm.
so he got targeted, evade the attack, but still copy a power.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So
but
Taskmaster's cool. He's a cool character.
yeah, we haven't gotten one of him in a really long time, so he'd probably be like my next best.
And Luke, let's see if you want to give it a try. What is your
So he texted me. He said the figures were Carnage and Thanos. Excuse me. He said those are two of his favorite characters. So it will probably be one of those. I don't know if he can. His sound might be still messed up. But he definitely said whether it will either be a Carnage or a Thanos because those are the two characters that he really likes.
Yeah, Brandon, you said you're a Carnage fan too, right? Like, so got a lot of
Yeah,
Carnage
this is
fans.
the where am I?
Yeah, I see the Carnage behind you. Is that a Heroclix or is that a
No,
that's
that's
just a statue?
that's the Hot Toys movie Carnage.
Yeah, I collect comics. I have the first appearance of Carnage, signed by Bagley.
Okay, now I'm
So
jealous. Now, the one actually I have one that suits me a bit more. I have a cover of Carnage drawn by Kevin Eastman.
oh well,
Because
that's way cooler than mine.
next to Carnage is the Turtles, and I have Shredder right behind me. And
Yes.
so, like it's a cover drawn of Carnage, but it's drawn by him and signed by him. And I was like, wow, this shouldn't even exist. This is amazing. So
That's awesome. All right, everybody. So, thanks for joining me. I want to thank Brandon, Ken, Luke, and Ant. I had a really fun time talking about Heroclix. Congratulations to you all on your top 4 in the 2v2 Highlander Games modern tournament that just passed. I wish everybody good luck in your Heroclix endeavors. Hope everybody has a great time in the next event, whatever you guys are planning on cooking up for the next event. I hope everybody does a great job, and thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for talking with me. I hope everybody watching and listening at home is enjoying this episode. And don't forget, wake up and smell the Clix. Have a good
Thank
night.
you.